Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow.
Hey everybody, welcome to what is a very special program, and it's special because this is a case that we've been involved in for a lot of years, and we wanted to bring it to you in this case involving Asia Bibi. I want to give you the facts and circumstances of the case. This involves a Christian mother in Pakistan who's been sentenced to death. The allegation has been blasphemy. Her case has now been heard by a special three-member bench of the Supreme Court of Pakistan just yesterday. It reserved its judgment on the final appeal. She has been sentenced to death, by the way, for blasphemy. But let's get the facts known here, and then we're going to give you an update of what took place at this very critical hearing. We got some good news coming out of the hearing. You got to pray for the judges involved with this. The pressure they're under is immense, as you can imagine. In fact, and when I sent out tweets and social media statements regarding Asia Bibi's case over the last few days leading up to this hearing, I will tell you what happened. I started seeing these hashtag, hang Asia, kill Asia Bibi. I mean, it got very, very serious and very aggressive very quick. Shahryar Gill, Shahryar handles our office in Pakistan as well as a lot of other international law matters for us. He was born in Pakistan, American citizen, but born in Pakistan. Shahryar, tell us about the case, what the facts were that led up to this so people understand what this woman's been sentenced to death for.
Right. So in 2009, she was accused of committing blasphemy while she was at a farm picking berries, and that was her job. And it was a hot summer day, and she got some water for herself, and then in the same cup, she offered water to two of her Muslim co-workers who said that the water was unclean because she was a Christian, and they did not want to drink water from it. And they insulted her, wanted her to convert to Islam, and then that led to some sort of a heated argument at that time. 5 days later, a Muslim cleric from the village, he lodged a complaint against Asia Bibi for committing blasphemy during that prior conversation with those two women. Now, these charges were brought after a whole meeting of the elders in the village, and over 1,000 people gathered. They beat up Asia, and they asked her to confess to what she basically to committing blasphemy. So that was the basis of the complaint, and the complaint was filed. She was arrested. A year later, after a trial that was full of procedural and evidentiary errors, she was sentenced to death. And then about 4 years later, the High Court of Pakistan, which is a first level appellate court, affirmed her conviction.
So for people to understand what happened here, blasphemy is a crime in Pakistan. The blasphemy here was she offered a cup of water to two Muslim colleagues, people she worked with, and the end result of that was she gets charged on blasphemy charges. What's interesting, I've got our director of policy, Harry Hutchison, Professor Hutchison, with us in our studio. When I'm reading some of the excerpts that came out of the trial, what becomes clear is actually that evidence is not in the record that there was any actual blasphemy, and the judges have said, are these things in the record? What we can conclude from your statement is that the prayer leader himself, the one who charged Asia Bibi, did not witness the incident as it happened.
Jay, you are absolutely correct. Jay, there is little or no evidence in the record of any kind of blasphemy. The case against Asia Bibi has always been weak. There is no eyewitness testimony with respect to blasphemy. No contemporaneous report was filed. All the evidence is hearsay and is inherently unreliable. This is an extremely weak case.
We're going to get into this. Washington's involved in it too, so we're going to talk to Than Bennett. Skip Ash, our senior lawyer on international law matters, is there as well. Big development. The hearing was yesterday. Now, normally there'd be a verdict immediately. This is a very sensitive case, so I'm going to tell you why that verdict's probably delayed. We've had 777,000 signatures on a petition to save Asia Bibi from execution. Now it's before the Supreme Court of Pakistan and the arguments that just went down. What we're going to ask you to do, if you haven't signed this petition, there is a phone number on your screen. I urge you to call that number now or simply go over to aclj.org. The petition will be there, aclj.org. Let's let the world know we're standing with Asia Bibi. Back with more in just a moment.
We need your help. Christian mom Asia Bibi is on death row. This Christian mother of 5 was convicted under Pakistan's brutal blasphemy laws and sentenced to death. We're expanding our global advocacy program for her freedom. We've heard from more than 500,000 supporters demanding that Pakistan free Asia Bibi now. The international media is closely watching this case. The world is watching. Your voice could be the difference between life and death. We need to hear from each one of you right now before it's too late. Sign on to our petition now. Save Asia Bibi from execution. Call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
All right, we decided to stay away from domestic politics for a day, stay away from Supreme Court, and focus on a case in another Supreme Court, and that's the Supreme Court of Pakistan, that we've been involved in at the American Center for Law and Justice for a long time. We have an office in Lahore, Pakistan, and there's a case involving a Christian woman named Asia Bibi, and she has been charged and sentenced to death for blasphemy. Let me go first to Skip Ash here, senior counsel, international expert. Blasphemy, in every one of these cases we've been involved in, Skip, there's always something like a blasphemy charge that's made or leveled.
Absolutely. And this is a charge that is leveled very often as a way of getting back at somebody. So we have a situation where if you have an enmity to somebody, especially a Christian, which are second-class citizens in Pakistan, if you have a row with them, some argument, very often they will allege blasphemy. And blasphemy is a death penalty case. If you're convicted of blasphemy, you're supposed to get the death penalty. So what that does, that intimidates people, and they normally are so afraid of that they will give the Muslims what they want. So this is exactly the situation we are encountering here. And let's remember, this poor woman has been in jail since 2009.
Yeah.
It's now 2018. So she's been in jail waiting through the appellate process for 9 years.
Charged again with blasphemy for offering a cup of water to Muslim co-workers. The person that made the charge against her was considered a prayer leader, an imam from this particular village. He doesn't actually appear at the hearings and did not give evidence. The chief judge pointed that issue out. Now, the pressure these judges are under, it's just immense. Let me go to Than Bennett in our office in Washington, D.C. We have raised this case. Pakistan is an ally of the United States. What's been the Washington response here?
Well, this has been a multi-year effort for SJ, both internationally and here domestically. Domestically, the lead in this effort in the United States Congress is being led by Senator Rand Paul, who has a resolution called S-Res 107. It demands Pakistan release Asia Bibi and reform its blasphemy laws. Jay, the important thing here about this resolution is it's bipartisan in nature. Senator Paul has 8 co-sponsors on it. 4 of them are Democrats, and they really range across the spectrum. Senator Coons, Senator Baldwin, Senator Durbin, and Senator Manchin have joined with him in that effort. Ultimately, Jay, we would love the United States Senate to move this piece of this resolution. Of course, the United States can't in itself mandate that Pakistan release her, though. That's why we've taken it to the Human Rights Council. I know we'll talk about that in a minute. But here in Washington, the tip of the spear is this resolution from Senator Rand Paul.
Here's what's interesting. I'm going to go back to the facts on this for a moment to Shahriar. It says, the Chief Justice said the witness testimony did not state that she had used blasphemous language for the Holy Quran. He said no blasphemous words were used at all. Asia in her statement said that she could not even conceive of committing blasphemy. That's what the lawyer said. The Chief Justice, it seems, was wondering where all this so-called evidence was, Shahriar.
Right, and that's one of the most important things. I think what happened today was that the justices were looking for the evidence. And the other side's attorney actually started, when he saw that the justices weren't convinced by the allegations, he started quoting the Quranic verses. And the justices stopped him, and they said, look, we understand that that's the sanctity of the prophet is important, but that's not what's going on here. We need evidence. We're looking for evidence. You have to prove that she's guilty of a crime.
So it's interesting. We got a Rosanna on Facebook. And by the way, if you've got comments, get them in. Our social media team's looking at those. If you're praying for Asia Bibi, let us know that. Pray for those judges, too. Very, very important to pray for the judges involved in this. Having this hearing was high risk. Can the international community step in, or is this solely a Pakistani governing issue? This is Rosanna. Well, there's both. There is international pressure being put on both. And we're going to get to the UN in a moment with Than Bennett, who is our designated representative to the United Nations for the European Center for Law and Justice, our European affiliate. But international community pressure is the reason Asia Bibi is alive. We have found it time and time again with these cases, Professor Hutchinson, that keeping international pressure up is what keeps these people alive.
Absolutely. So international community pressure is absolutely necessary, absolutely essential to maintain the life of Asia Bibi. It's clear beyond question that there are many people within the Pakistani community who are prepared to allow these blasphemy charges to go forward without evidence as a way of coercing the minority Christian population within their country. And I think it's absolutely essential for Westerners, for people from all over the world to mobilize against this effort if we are going to sustain Asia Bibi's life and sustain the lives of Christians wherever they are throughout the world.
Skip, let me ask you this as our international law expert here and runs our international legal group. Give me your sense of the nature and scope of the importance of this case. Obviously, we're fighting for this woman's life, so there's nothing more important. But this blasphemy issue is a really serious problem on a global scale.
It really is. For instance, even in Pakistan, we have determined that when you can get a fair trial in Pakistan, provided that the issue is not one of these very sensitive issues like blasphemy. So this is a problem. We have to recall that in 2011, the former governor of one of the states came out in support of Asia Bibi, and he was assassinated because he just took the stand saying that she wasn't getting a fair trial. So the pressure on the judges is amazing. Now, what the international Islamic community, though, is concerned about is that this type of thing can bring discredit upon Islam. And I think they're as concerned about that as anything else. And therefore, the outside world needs to raise and keep the pressure on so that we say, this is not what you claim Islam to be. But look, as we look and see what happens in Pakistan, we see this law being misused and being applied primarily either as to get a vendetta against somebody or to keep down the minority populations. So we have to keep pressure on them so that her name is constantly before the government of Pakistan and before the courts of Pakistan, so they will operate in the correct way.
As I said, we're taking comments coming in from Facebook and Periscope, as well as your number calls at 1-800-684-3110. Vivian on Facebook wrote this: can the U.S. put pressure on Pakistan through withholding international aid? Than?
Yes, the answer is yes, and we've asked for that on this case and a number of others. Pakistan, actually, Jay, is one of the largest recipients of U.S. Foreign aid. Human rights have long been something that the United States Congress has done a poor job of drawing money down on. For Jay, we have consistently said, if you want to be an ally of the United States, human rights, especially egregious violations like this one, should be one of the criteria to continue seeing those dollars. Jay, we will make that request again next year. We think that this should be something that should cost Pakistan U.S. aid.
Shahari, I'm getting a lot of people. I'm looking at some of the Facebook and Periscope feed that's coming up before me, and a lot of people saying they're going to pray for the judges. Skip mentioned that the governor that came out in favor of Asia Bibi was assassinated. What's the pressure like on these judges?
Well, just by looking at today's hearing, there were a lot of Muslim clerics present in the court. I just received an email from our office there in which they have told me that a Pakistani Muslim group has released a video in which they have noticed this hearing, and they are saying that these judges are open to releasing her and listening to the appeal was horrendous for them. and they have released that video asking for death penalty for her, and even against the judges, that they're very angry at the judges to even hear the appeal.
I don't know if we have the hashtag. We do. I want to show people what's going on the social media platforms right now by Muslim radicals that are trying to make this case. They want to see the death penalty. Look, take a look on the screen. I mean, this tells you what's going on. And I mean, hang Asiya is what that's called. I mean, there you have it. And these started showing up on my feed over the weekend as we were starting to promote the case. We've been involved in this case for many, many years, and there's always been some of this, but I think it's fair to say, well, it's never been at this. This is the highest level of social media interaction coming out of, it looks like, Pakistan, or certainly they're using Arabic and sometimes English, sometimes appropriately the English, sometimes not, but clearly they're trying to make a point here. So what Shahriar is saying, Skip, is that the judges are under an incredible amount of stress.
Absolutely. And
it looks like they want to do the right thing.
I think they do. And I think what they're trying to do with this delay of the verdict or their decision is to give time for things to cool down. And then they may, just like our politicians very often release evidence or release information before a Friday or weekend where it gets minimal coverage, I think they may be looking for the same opportunity so that the passions have cooled considerably. And then when they make the decision, it will have less of a violent reaction. So I think we do need to be praying for these judges to do the right thing at the same time for their protection.
We've had 777,000 signatures on a petition to save Asiya Bibi from execution. Now it's before the Supreme Court of Pakistan and the arguments that just went down. What we're going to ask you to do, if you haven't signed this petition, there is a phone number on your screen. I urge you to call that number now or simply go over to aclj.org. The petition will be there, aclj.org. Let's let the world know we're standing with Asiya Bibi. Back with more in just a moment.
We need your help. Christian mom Asiya Bibi is on death row. This Christian mother of 5 was convicted under Pakistan's brutal blasphemy laws and sentenced to death. We're expanding our global advocacy program for her freedom. We've heard from more than 500,000 supporters demanding that Pakistan free Asiya Bibi now. The international media is closely watching this case. The world is watching. Your voice could be the difference between life and death. We need to hear from each one of you right now before it's too late. Sign on to our petition now. Save Asiya Bibi from execution. Call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
Welcome back to the broadcast. So the Supreme Court, a 3-judge panel of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, heard the appeal of Asiya Bibi. She's been sentenced to death because of her faith. She's been charged with blasphemy. We have intervened at the UN. I want, before we play that intervention, Than Bennett, our Director of Government Affairs, and our designated UN representative, we have standing with the United Nations. Let's talk about what an intervention actually is here.
Yeah, we always engage in these cases in a variety of ways, Jay, and you've heard Shahriar go through a lot of the legal arguments we make. We also engage domestically with that leverage point. Internationally, Jay, when we have this accreditation at the United Nations, it allows us to make what are called interventions. Sometimes they're written interventions where we file legal arguments on behalf of a victim of wrongful religious persecution case, as in this case. Sometimes they are oral interventions where one of our staff members, one of our attorneys will go and make an intervention verbally. Will actually appear before the chamber, whether it's the Human Rights Council or the floor of the General Assembly, and make the case verbally. So that's what you're about to hear here, where the European Center for Law and Justice, our European affiliate, took to the floor and verbally made the case inside the United Nations for Asiya Bibi.
All right, here we go.
Thank you very much. European Center for Law and Justice, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Islamic Republic of Pakistan's blasphemy laws present a continuous threat to religious minorities. In particular, Section 295C of the Pakistani Penal Code states, Whoever by words, either spoken or written, or by visible representation, or by any imputation, innuendo, or insinuation, directly or indirectly, defiles the sacred name of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, shall be punished with death or imprisonment for life, and shall also be liable to fine. Since the enactment of these laws, over 1,000 cases of blasphemy have been registered, over 50 people have been extrajudicially killed by Muslim mobs or individuals, and at least 40 people are currently on death row or serving life sentences. Hundreds more have served or are serving prison terms ranging from 3 to 10 years. One prominent case is that of Asia Bibi, a Christian mother of 5 who was convicted of blasphemy for offering her co-workers water from her cup. The co-workers told Asia that she had made the cup ceremonially unclean by drinking from it. They ordered her to convert to Islam, but Asia refused and expressed her faith in Jesus Christ. She was charged with blasphemy, convicted, and sentenced to death. She has been in prison for the last 9 years, waiting for the Supreme Court of Pakistan to hear her appeal. Therefore, we urge this Council to investigate cases of blasphemy and extrajudicial killings and to require Pakistan to repeal or amend its blasphemy laws. Thank you.
So we're handling it on the domestic level in Pakistan with the court, but we're also handling it on the international level right there at the UN. So, Skip, how important do you view those kind of interventions?
I think they're absolutely essential. We have to let Pakistan know that we have not forgotten these people who have been falsely accused, falsely convicted, and are now awaiting their sentences. And I think appearing at the UN is a very broad stage, but also having a government like the United States, which is a very strong government, or some of our allied governments make individual appeals to the government of Pakistan. I know that the Vatican has done so, and we've appealed through the Vatican the same way. There are religious groups in the West and nations in the West that continually are reaching out to Pakistan and making the appeal that individuals like Asia Bibi should not be executed for their beliefs in violation of major treaties and the provisions of major treaties that all of these nations have agreed to.
So when you look at that situation, Shahryar is the lawyer that's responsible with our office on handling this. What is the realistic outcome here?
I think the realistic outcome, looking at how the judges handled the case, would be, and hopefully would be, that they would acquit her. They would overturn her conviction. But again, at the same time, they have to keep in mind the security situation, and it has to be sort of under the radar, or in more not really publicizing what they're doing. And I think that's what the court has kind of done in this case by not giving the verdict today and just quietly releasing the judgment at a later time. So all those actions kind of support that we can guess, or we can ascertain that's what the court is kind of aiming for.
So what's your sense, Harry?
Well, I think Shahryar's analysis is absolutely correct. I think the Pakistani government, the justice system, the entire country has to take a decision. The decision is, will they remain a rule of law country, or will they allow mob rule to reign? And if they go down the latter road, this will simply empower the theocrats, this will empower mob rule, and this will increase the level of subordination of Christians. So I hope the Pakistani Justice Department stands up for the rule of law and for the presumption of innocence. At the end of the day, any impartial observer looking at the evidence will find that there is indeed no evidence in support of this conviction. So I hope the justices will do the right thing and they will find Asia Bibi innocent.
You know, you're looking at the trial transcript, at least the aspects that have been reported in the press, gives an indication that the judges think that this were what we call put-up charges. The witnesses aren't there that were the ones that were the accusing witnesses. The imam who wrote the accusation out does not show up in court. So the judges question both the legal foundation of this as well as the factual, the evidentiary foundation. At the same time, as Stan said, we took this to the United Nations and will continue to until she's released. And frankly, Stan, the reason we're having this hearing with any attention at all is because of what's gone on internationally here. Let's be realistic. I'm not saying that somebody else couldn't have done it. I'm not, we took the case and we've been very aggressive in our advocacy, both in media and in international tribunals. But the fact is, without that, oftentimes these cases, the end result is not a good one.
Well, Jay, as Skip said earlier in the broadcast, the reason these blasphemy laws strike such fear in the hearts of Pakistanis is because of two things. One, how frequently they're used, and two, how often they stick without evidence. So I think you're right to read into what the judges saw about the lack of evidence here. But look, those charges still stick in other cases where evidence is lacking. So we take this case to the United Nations to make sure that the visibility is raised. And quite frankly, Jay, I know a lot of our audience here is American. The American government has more influence on the Pakistani government than any other government in the world. The Trump administration has started to use that on the military side of things, and I would tell you, come the next fiscal year, it's time for the United States Congress to follow that lead and to squeeze the dollars when it comes to human rights violations.
James on Facebook says, can we call our senators or congressmen and urge them to engage on this? What do you think on that one quickly, Fan?
The answer is yes. They should be on Senate Resolution 107, and they should also be calling on their congressmen and senators to draw back aid if Asia Bibi is not released.
Gail on Facebook says, Jay, what practical steps can we take besides praying? Well, praying is a big part of it, a huge part of it. Pray for those judges. Also, contacting your congressmen and senators about this is important. But also pray for our legal team. That's going to do it for the broadcast this week. Number one, pray for Asia Bibi. Number two, just as important, pray for those judges that are making a decision. Pray for our legal team in Pakistan. We have an office in Lahore, Pakistan. And also, let me encourage you to sign a petition. We have a petition up for Asia Bibi, over 770,000 signatures for her to be released and for her to be free. Sign it if you haven't done so. You could do that with calling the number it's on the screen right now, or simply go to aclj.org. That's aclj.org, or just call that number that's on the screen. We'll talk to you next week.
We need your help. Christian mom Asia Bibi is on death row. This Christian mother of 5 was convicted under Pakistan's brutal blasphemy laws and sentenced to death. We're expanding our global advocacy program for her freedom. We've heard from more than 500,000 supporters demanding that Pakistan free Asia Bibi now. The international media is closely watching this case. The world is watching. Your voice could be the difference between life and death. We need to hear from each one of you right now before it's too late. Sign on to our petition now. Save Asia Bibi from execution. Call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or you can add your name online, aclj.org.